My name is Zachara, and I was once a proud citizen of the galactic hegemony. For millennia, our civilization stood as a beacon of order and enlightenment, spreading across thousands of star systems. We brought structure to countless primitive species, guiding them with our superior knowledge and technology. We saw ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution, the rightful rulers of the cosmos. It was a belief ingrained in us from birth, a self-perception that shaped our identity and actions. When we first detected the humans, they were barely a blip on our long-range scans. A minor curiosity, nothing more. They were a species just beginning to venture beyond their home planet, fumbling with chemical rockets and dreaming of the stars. We noted their existence, categorized them as a potential candidate for uplift in a few thousand years, and promptly forgot about them. They were insignificant in the grand tapestry of our empire, and we had far more important matters to attend to. This initial dismissal would prove to be our first and most critical mistake. At the time of their discovery, humans were in a primitive state by our standards. They were just starting their journey into space, relying on rudimentary chemical rockets to explore their solar system. Their achievements, while impressive for their level of development, were primitive in comparison to our advanced technologies. We viewed them as a species with potential, but one that was still eons away from achieving anything of significance. Our decision was to monitor their progress discreetly, to observe their growth and evolution. We considered them a potential candidate for uplift, a species we might guide and integrate into the hegemony in the distant future. But for now, they were of no immediate concern. After making our initial observations, we largely neglected them, confident that they posed no threat to our supremacy. Our attention was focused on more pressing issues, and the humans faded into the background of our vast empire, a mere footnote in our grand history. Little did we know that this neglect, this underestimation of their potential, would set the stage for our eventual downfall. Barely 2 centuries had passed since our initial detection of humans when we decided to check on them again. What we found was beyond comprehension. Somehow, against all odds and our predictions, humans had mastered faster-than-light travel. This technological leap should have taken millennia, yet here they were, defying every expectation. Their ships, crude by our standards, could traverse the vast distances between stars with surprising efficiency. The news of their advancement rippled through the hegemony. Curiosity mixed with arrogance led us to engage with humans diplomatically. We could not fathom how such a primitive species could achieve something so extraordinary. Our leaders believed that by opening diplomatic channels, we could control and perhaps even benefit from their unexpected ingenuity. We invited them to establish trade agreements and share knowledge, all while keeping a close eye on their progress. Hegemony scientists were baffled by human technological progress. They pored over data, analyzed the ships, and studied their propulsion systems, but nothing made sense. How could a species so young and inexperienced leapfrog over technologies we had perfected eons ago? It was a question that gnawed at the very core of our scientific community. The more we learned about human innovation, the more we realized how much we had underestimated them. Our initial approach to humans was one of control and study. We saw them as a potential client race, one that could be groomed to serve our purposes. The plan was simple: provide them with limited access to our technology, guide their development, and eventually integrate them into the hegemony as a subordinate species. But humans were not content with the scraps we offered. They absorbed our technology like a sponge, rapidly improving and adapting it in ways we had never imagined. The speed at which humans progressed was alarming. They took our centuries-old designs and refined them, making them more efficient and practical. Their capacity for innovation seemed boundless, and soon, their technological prowess began to rival our own. Our scientists and engineers were both impressed and terrified by the rate at which humans were advancing. As if their technological progress wasn't enough, humans began forming alliances with other species. They reached out to our vassal races, offering friendship and mutual cooperation. Many of these races, tired of the hegemony's strict control, were eager to ally with the newcomers. This caused significant unrest within our empire. Vassal races that had once been loyal began to question their allegiance, drawn by the promise of equality and collaboration that humans offered. The influence of humans spread like wildfire. Their diplomatic efforts, combined with their technological advancements, created a wave of change that we could not control. Our leaders, blinded by arrogance, failed to see the growing threat until it was too late. The humans, once considered a minor curiosity, were now a force that could not be ignored. Our attempts to manage and manipulate them had backfired spectacularly, setting the stage for a conflict that would challenge the very foundations of the hegemony. In hindsight, our mistakes were clear. We had underestimated the potential of humans, believing them to be no more than another primitive species to be guided and controlled. Our arrogance blinded us to their capabilities, and our attempts to study and control them only fueled their determination to prove themselves. The unrest among our vassal races further weakened our position, making us vulnerable to the rapidly expanding influence of humanity. These misjudgments would come to haunt us as the conflict between our species escalated, leading to a war that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. The outbreak of war caught the hegemony completely off guard. We had grown complacent over the millennia, confident in our technological superiority and the stability of our vast empire. The idea that a relatively young and inexperienced species like humans could pose a real threat to us was laughable. We believed that any conflict with them would be brief and decisive, a mere footnote in our long history of dominance. When the first skirmishes occurred, our leaders dismissed them as minor disturbances. We expected to crush the human forces quickly, relying on our advanced weaponry and battle-hardened fleets. Our initial strategy was straightforward: overwhelm the humans with sheer firepower and force them into submission. But as the battles began, it became clear that we had grossly underestimated our opponents. The first encounters with human forces were shocking. Their ships, though smaller and less imposing than our own, were incredibly fast and maneuverable. They danced around our lumbering cruisers, evading our attacks with ease and striking back with precision. Their tactics were unlike anything we had ever seen, a blend of creativity and adaptability that left our admirals scrambling to respond. Our initial assaults were met with fierce resistance. Human ships struck at our supply lines, severing the flow of resources to our front lines. They targeted our communication relays, plunging our fleets into chaos and confusion. They even managed to turn some of our own defensive systems against us, using their superior hacking skills to wreak havoc from within. The more we fought, the more it became apparent that this was not going to be an easy victory. The humans were not just surviving, they were winning. The speed and maneuverability of human ships were their greatest assets. In open space, their smaller vessels could outpace and outmaneuver our larger, more heavily armed ships. They would engage in hit-and-run tactics, striking swiftly and then retreating before we could mount a proper defense. Their ability to change strategies on the fly and adapt to our responses kept us perpetually off balance. Human weapons, while less powerful than our own, were used with remarkable precision. They targeted weak points in our armor and exploited vulnerabilities in our formations. Their focus was not on brute force but on efficiency and effectiveness. They would disable key systems on our ships, rendering them inoperable, rather than attempting to destroy them outright. This approach minimized their losses while maximizing the damage inflicted on us. Their innovative tactics extended beyond the battlefield. Humans excelled at psychological warfare, spreading misinformation and sowing discord among our ranks. They would launch feints and diversions, drawing our forces into traps and ambushes. They infiltrated our communications, sending false orders and creating confusion among our commanders. It was a level of warfare we were unprepared for, and it showed in our mounting losses. One of the most significant factors in the human success was their ability to win over our vassal races. Many of these species had grown resentful of the hegemony's strict control and rigid hierarchy. The humans offered them something we never did: the promise of equality and mutual respect. As human diplomats and envoys reached out, more and more vassal races began to defect to their side. These defections further weakened our position. Races that had once provided critical support and resources were now aiding our enemies. Our fleets, already stretched thin, found themselves fighting on multiple fronts, unable to maintain a cohesive defense. The unity that had once been our greatest strength was fracturing, leaving us vulnerable to the relentless advance of human forces. As the war dragged on, the toll on the hegemony became increasingly evident. Our once mighty armadas were reduced to scattered remnants, struggling to hold on to whatever territory they could. Our supply lines were in shambles, our communication networks compromised, and our allies turning against us. The humans, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had become a force that threatened to topple the very foundation of our empire. In the face of this relentless onslaught, our confidence began to waver. The war that we thought would be a quick and easy victory had turned into a desperate struggle for survival. The humans, with their speed, precision, and innovative tactics, were proving to be formidable adversaries. And as our vassal races continued to defect, it became clear that the balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. The hegemony, once the undisputed ruler of countless star systems, was now fighting for its very existence. The relentless advance of human forces was unstoppable. One by one, key worlds of the hegemony fell into their hands. Each victory for the humans weakened our defenses and morale. Strategic planets, once thought impregnable, were captured with a precision and efficiency that left our commanders bewildered. The pace of their advance left us with little time to regroup or mount a meaningful counteroffensive. The final defense of Zor, the capital of the hegemony, was our last stand. Zor was not just a planet, it was the heart of our civilization, the symbol of our power and grandeur. Our fleets were marshaled, our defenses fortified, and every resource at our disposal was deployed to protect it. The skies above Zor were filled with the glittering arrays of our warships, ready to repel the invaders. But the human assault was relentless. Their ships, small and agile, slipped through our defenses, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Our fleets, though mighty, were scattered and disorganized. The human tactics, a mix of speed, subterfuge, and relentless pressure, left us reeling. Our defensive grids were hacked and turned against us, our communication lines severed, and our supply routes obliterated. The fall of Zor was inevitable. As I stood on the balcony of my crystal spire, overlooking the once bustling metropolis, I felt a profound sense of despair. The sky was filled with the streaks of falling ships and the distant thuds of explosions. The once proud capital, adorned with the architectural marvels of our civilization, was now a battlefield. The realization that our millennia-long reign was coming to an end was overwhelming. My heart sank as I watched the human ships descend through the atmosphere, knowing that everything I had ever known was about to change forever. Human ships descended on Zor with an eerie calm. Their precision strikes had already disabled our orbital defenses, and now they landed troops in key locations across the planet. I braced myself for the inevitable destruction and chaos that would follow. Surely, the humans would seek revenge for all the worlds we had devastated in our desperate attempts to stop their advance. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. But it never came. Instead, a calm voice echoed through all communication channels, speaking in perfect Zoran. People of Zor, this is Admiral Elena Chun of the United Earth Alliance. Your leaders have surrendered, and we are here to oversee the transition of power. We have no desire for vengeance or destruction. Cooperate with us, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be detained. But know this, the era of the galactic hegemony is over. A new age is dawning, one of equality and opportunity for all sapient species. You can be part of it or be left behind. The choice is yours. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. How could this be? Everything I had been taught about the inherent superiority of our species and the primitive nature of all others, especially humans, was being turned on its head. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and fear. Like many of my fellow Zoran, I waited for the humans to reveal their true, brutal nature, to begin the purges and enslavement we were certain would come. But it never did. The human occupation was orderly, almost mundane. Soldiers patrolled the streets, but they did not harass civilians or loot our homes. Checkpoints were established, and curfews were implemented, but these were gradually relaxed as it became clear there would be no organized resistance. Most shocking of all was the day I saw a human soldier interact with a young Zoran child who had wandered into the street. I was certain I was about to witness a tragedy, but instead, the soldier gently picked up the child, returned her to her terrified parent, and even offered them a ration pack when he noticed how thin they looked. As weeks turned into months, life began to return to a semblance of normalcy. Those of us who worked in non-military sectors were encouraged to return to our jobs. I, as a mid-level bureaucrat in the Planetary Resource Allocation Department, found myself reporting to work as usual, albeit under new management. My new supervisor was a human named David. At first, I was terrified of him, certain that any mistake would result in severe punishment. But David was different. He was patient and understanding, taking the time to learn about our systems and procedures, often asking for my input on how to integrate human and Zoran methods most effectively. Slowly, the fear and mistrust began to fade. The humans, true to their word, did not impose their culture on us wholesale. Instead, they encouraged a blending of ideas, a cultural exchange that led to fascinating new developments in art, science, and philosophy. As the old order crumbled, a new one began to take its place, and I found myself cautiously hopeful for the future. The initial occupation of Zor by human forces was marked by an unexpected level of order and restraint. The humans, having systematically disabled our defenses and secured key locations, began their occupation with a focus on maintaining stability rather than exerting dominance. Soldiers patrolled the streets with a visible yet non-threatening presence. Checkpoints were established, curfews enforced, but these measures were gradually relaxed as it became clear that there would be no organized resistance from the Zoran population. Zakhara, like many of his fellow citizens, observed these changes with a mixture of confusion and cautious optimism. Human soldiers, contrary to the expected brutal conquerors, interacted with Zoran civilians in ways that were unexpectedly humane. They assisted in distributing food and medical supplies, ensuring that the basic needs of the population were met. Zakhara witnessed numerous instances where human soldiers went out of their way to help, fostering a sense of uneasy respect among the Zoran. One incident in particular stood out to Zakhara. A young Zoran child had wandered into the street, looking lost and frightened. A human soldier, instead of ignoring or chastising the child, gently picked her up and asked her where her parents were. The soldier's tone was calm and reassuring. He soon found the child's anxious mother and handed the girl back, along with a ration pack for the family. This act of kindness left a profound impression on Zakhara, challenging his deeply ingrained prejudices against humans. Zakhara's professional life took an unexpected turn under the new human administration. He returned to his job at the Planetary Resource Allocation Department, now under the supervision of a human named David. Initially, Zakhara was filled with trepidation. He feared that any mistake could lead to severe repercussions. However, David's approach to leadership was a stark contrast to what Zakhara had anticipated. David was patient and understanding, taking the time to learn about the existing Zoran systems and procedures. He often sought Zakhara's input, showing a genuine interest in integrating human and Zoran methods to create more efficient workflows. This collaborative approach was new to Zakhara, who had been accustomed to a rigid hierarchy where orders were given and followed without question. David's philosophy on learning and growth began to influence Zakhara deeply. He often spoke about the importance of continuous improvement and the value of questioning established norms. "You know, Zakhara," David once said during a meeting, "we studied your people extensively before making contact. You've accomplished incredible things, but somewhere along the way, you stopped growing. You thought you had all the answers, so you stopped asking questions. That's why we won, not because we were stronger, but because we never stopped learning." These words resonated with Zakhara. He began to see the truth in David's observations. The hegemony had indeed stagnated, resting on its laurels and believing in its inherent superiority. In contrast, the humans' relentless pursuit of knowledge and their ability to adapt had given them the edge. This realization was humbling, but it also sparked a newfound sense of purpose in Zakhara. He started to embrace the changes, seeing them not as a loss of identity but as an opportunity for growth and renewal. Under David's guidance, Zakhara's fear gradually transformed into respect and admiration. He found himself more engaged in his work, eager to contribute to the new order that was emerging. The blending of human and Zoran ideas led to innovative solutions and a more dynamic workplace. Sakura's views on leadership, collaboration, and personal growth were forever altered, and he began to look forward to the future with a sense of cautious optimism. The occupation of Zor by human forces brought profound changes to Zoran society, starting with the gradual breakdown of the rigid caste system that had defined their civilization for millennia. Influenced by human ideals of equality and individual liberty, many young Zorans began to question the old traditions and hierarchies that had long governed their lives. The human emphasis on personal freedom and social mobility resonated deeply with the younger generation, sparking a cultural revolution. Zorans started embracing these new concepts with enthusiasm. Social gatherings, once strictly segregated by caste, began to see a mix of individuals from different backgrounds and statuses. Educational institutions, previously accessible only to the elite, opened their doors to all, fostering a new sense of inclusivity and opportunity. The old rigid barriers that had once dictated every aspect of a Zoran's life began to dissolve, replaced by a more fluid and dynamic social structure. One notable example of this cultural blending was the rise of collaborative art projects. Human and Zoran artists worked together to create stunning murals and sculptures that reflected both cultures. These works of art became symbols of the new social dynamics, showcasing the beauty that could emerge from cooperation and mutual respect. In music, human melodies merged with traditional Zoran rhythms, creating entirely new genres that captured the imagination of both species. These cultural exchanges not only enriched Zoran society, but also fostered a deeper understanding and appreciation between the two races. The establishment of a new government on Zor was a pivotal moment in the post-occupation era. The new governance structure combined elements of traditional Zoran rule by the Council of Elders with human principles of democratic representation. This hybrid system was designed to balance the wisdom of the past with the progressive ideals of the present, ensuring that all voices were heard and respected. The Council of Elders was retained but was now elected through a democratic process rather than by birthright. Alongside the Council, a new parliamentary body was established, consisting of representatives elected by the populace. This bicameral system allowed for a more inclusive and representative government, where decisions were made through dialogue and consensus rather than decree. The introduction of human concepts such as term limits, transparency, and accountability further strengthened the new government, making it more responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. One of the most exciting developments in this new era was the joint exploration missions. Humans and Zorans, along with representatives from other allied species, embarked on expeditions to chart unexplored regions of space. These missions ignited a sense of adventure and possibility among the younger Zorans, including Sakura's nephew, who eagerly joined a joint human-Zoran expedition. The new government actively supported these endeavors, recognizing the value of exploration not only for scientific discovery but also for fostering unity and cooperation among the diverse races. These missions were meticulously planned and executed, combining the best of human and Zoran technologies and expertise. The excitement of venturing into the unknown, coupled with the collaborative spirit of these missions, brought a renewed sense of purpose and optimism to Zor. The benefits of the new government structure were manifold. It created a more equitable and just society, where individuals were judged by their abilities and contributions rather than their birthright. The blending of human and Zoran ideas led to innovative solutions in governance, education, and social welfare. The sense of inclusivity and participation in the democratic process empowered citizens and fostered a stronger sense of community. As the Zorans adapted to these changes, they began to realize that the fall of the old regime was not an end but a new beginning, an opportunity to build a society that was more vibrant, dynamic, and resilient than ever before. Under this new order, the Zoran civilization flourished. The integration of human and Zoran principles created a society that valued both tradition and innovation. The excitement of joint exploration missions and the cultural blending that permeated every aspect of life brought about a renaissance that revitalized Zor. It was a time of great change, but also of great promise, as the Zorans embraced a future filled with endless possibilities. 10 years have passed since the fall of Zor, and as I look back, I am struck by the profound changes that have swept through our society. The once rigid and hierarchical structure of the hegemony has given way to a more fluid and dynamic society. The shift from a dominance-based system to one of cooperative exploration and development has been both challenging and exhilarating. In these years, I have witnessed the dismantling of old prejudices and the rise of new opportunities. Our youth, once bound by the constraints of the caste system, now pursue their passions and talents freely. The cultural exchanges with humans have enriched our arts and sciences, bringing fresh perspectives and innovations. Personally, I have grown in ways I never imagined. Working alongside humans, I have learned the value of humility, adaptability, and the continuous pursuit of knowledge. One particular memory stands out: the first joint Human-Zoran festival. It was a celebration of our newfound unity, filled with music, art, and shared stories. Seeing humans and Zorans dancing together, laughing, and creating new traditions was a powerful reminder of how far we had come. It was in these moments that I truly understood the potential of our collaboration. The role of humans in rejuvenating Zoran society cannot be overstated. Their arrival marked the end of an era, but it also heralded the beginning of something far greater. By challenging our complacency and pushing us to question our long-held beliefs, they ignited a renaissance within our civilization. Humans taught us that true strength lies not in domination but in cooperation and diversity. Through their example, we learned that a thriving society is one that embraces continuous learning and adaptability. The blending of human and Zoran ideas has created a vibrant and resilient culture. We have come to appreciate the unique strengths each species brings to the table, and how our differences can complement and enhance our collective capabilities. I now hold a deep respect for human adaptability and resilience. Their ability to thrive in the face of adversity, to innovate, and to build meaningful connections across cultures has profoundly impacted me. As I prepare for the next Interspecies Council meeting, I am filled with a sense of hope and optimism. The humans didn't just conquer us, they freed us from our stagnation and showed us a path to a brighter, more inclusive future.